The majority of government spending on sport in Kosovo is distributed through the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. It was created in 2002, and over the last 15 years its budget has grown dramatically. In that time, the ministry has received between just 1 and 2% of the state's total budget. But in 2017, the state budget has gotten a lot bigger, and culture, youth and sport has received its biggest slice yet. 4 separate departments wrestle for funding from the ministry's budget: culture, youth, cultural heritage and sport. When the ministry began, it spent 27% of its total budget on sport. Yet by 2005, this had shrunk to just under 7%. The main reason for this was the creation of a restoration fund, run by the Department of Cultural Heritage. The fund was set up to help mend the damage caused by social unrest in March 2004, in which a number of Orthodox churches were attacked. The Restoration Fund ate up over 50% of the ministry's budget in 2005, which hit the Department of Sport especially hard. It took 5 years, when the restoration work was all but complete, for spending on sport to climb back above 25%. But by 2012, spending on the department had soared to roughly half of the ministry's budget, a level it remains at today. But what is that money spent on? Well, the Department of Sport spends its budget in 2 different ways. Firstly, capital investments. In other words, tangible things like sports halls, swimming pools and stadiums. And secondly, subsidies, money spent on running costs, which mostly finance Kosovo sports federations. But more on that later. The ministry's spending on capital investments has been wildly uneven. When Kosovo declared independence in February 2008, it was after almost a decade of negligible investment in sporting infrastructure. Since then, the state appears to be attempting to make up for lost time. In 2012 alone, the Department of Sport spent more than it did in its first 7 years combined. In 2017, it will be spending a huge amount of its massive budget on capital investments. 40 projects are planned to receive funding, including the construction of swimming pools in Prizren and Lepesavic, and a national judo centre in Peja. Over 65% of the money, though, will be spent on stadiums, including renovations of the Adam Yashari Stadium in Mitrovica and the City Stadium in Pristina, as well as the construction of a brand new national football stadium. As for subsidies, the department isn't spending much more than it was when it was first established. But where does this money go? 150 payments were made over the course of 2016. The number of payments were made directly to private organisations and individuals. Most of the money, however, is spent on Kosovo sports federations, some of whom depend on that money to survive, like swimming and tennis, whose entire 2014 budget came from the ministry. Recent audits from the Athletics Federation, though, show how Kosovo's acceptance into international sporting organisations can ease the burden on the public purse. In 2015, the Athletics Federation's total income was around €145,000, with funding from the ministry and local governments providing over 86% of its budget. The other 14% mostly came from donations, although 3.5% came from membership fees to clubs affiliated with the federation. Athletes were financially supporting their own governing body. 2016's audit tells a very different story. Total income remained roughly the same, but the public purse provided less than half the budget. Over €52,000 came from various global athletics bodies. Despite this increase in external funding, though, the federation still appears to be struggling to cover its costs. In February 2016, its own president, Halili Suleimani, personally loaned the federation €1,200, and he's not the only one. At the Table Tennis Federation, board member Besire Dominicu and national team coach Besart Dominicu both made personal loans to the federation, as did the Kosovo Olympic Committee and Football Federation. Table tennis also shows how membership in international organisations can actually add to a federation's costs rather than its income. In 2016, the federation's costs grew by over €10,000, partly due to entry fees and travel costs to compete in international events. In fact, the only income they received from international organisations was from the ITTF as part of a Fair Play Award in 2015. Some federations, however, look set to have an explosion in income thanks to international acceptance. In 2015, on top of the ministry's payment, the Kosovo Football Federation were able to raise over €500,000 to add to their budget. That included selling television rights for the Kosovo Super League and large sponsorship deals. The federation also received nearly €100,000 from UEFA before it was even a member. In the same year, after the incredible financial success of the 2014 World Cup, FIFA paid each of its members over €1 million. Kosovo missed out on the bonanza as it only joined in May 2016, but it would have more than doubled the federation's budget. Still, it goes to show that being a member of FIFA seemingly guarantees football's place as one of Kosovo's best funded sports.